Hello guys, how are you? Sometimes we get a topic and we forget everything else and we just talk about that topic. Sometimes like that. This weekend was like that in Sri Lanka, especially at least in the IT sector in Sri Lanka. When we go to Facebook, when we go to Twitter, everything like a Jira board. People giving expert opinion, people throw their ideas, people telling how this should be, and like that. Why? Because Sri Lanka government launched a new website called fuelpass, where people go and register and then you can get a QR code to get fuel. We can talk about this later why, but that's what happened. And this website start so many catastrophic failures just few minutes after its launch. It start to fail with the load and then they fix it and then one after the other, it start to fail. Even I'm recording this in a Sunday night, even by now it is not perfectly working. So today we are going to take this as a use case and dive into that and study and see why this happened and how this happened and what are the lessons we can learn from this. However, this is completely education purpose only. If you are here to see that I'm criticizing this effort or criticizing this website, no, that's not going to happen. So this video is not for you. This video is completely education purpose to teach future software engineers, future tech leads and future architects what are the problems of this type of design, and when this type of requirement comes, how should react and how should give solution to that and how you can overcome this type of problem. So therefore, whole purpose of this video and whole purpose of giving this talk and discussion is just to teach you something. That's all. I am not criticizing this effort in any manner. Why? Because in Sri Lanka, we have thousands of great software engineers and architects and tech leads who work for first world countries and developed countries and giving their developing system for them. Even personally for me, I involve design so many mission critical systems in the first world countries. But still in my country, we work on the papers. So if my country putting at least one effort to go away from the papers and move into this digital world, I'm giving my both hands for that. So it's okay to fail, right? Nothing wrong by failing. So I'm fully supportive on that. So I'm not discouraged or I'm not criticize this effort in any manner, right? So what the problem here, how we did that and how we should have done it, okay? So that is what we are going to talk. So understand, this is completely education purpose only, right? This is more or less a technical teaching video. This may be a discussion. Why? First, let me take 1 minute to explain why we needed this app. Right? Why we need this website? Especially this is from people who are not Sri Lankan, people who don't understand the context of this website. Okay, so most of you know, Sri Lanka is going through very tough time, kind of an economic crisis. We don't have fuel for like last 2-3 weeks now, right? We don't have fuel in a regular order for months now. So one by one industry, one by one jobs are collapsing because of this situation. So when this happens, usually there is a thing can go wrong. For example, when we get fuel, people scared about the future, so they go to the fuel station and they get the fuel, their vehicle, and come home and unload that fuel and store at home and go back to the queue, right? So that means because if there is no fuel now, what about another 2 months? So they're scared about it and they go and collect the fuel as much as they can, alright? And what happened with that, the people like us who work, we are not able to stay in the fuel queue on the daytime, so then we will not be able to get fuel. So government came up with a solution for that. Everyone who has a vehicle need to get registered on that system, they get a weekly guaranteed fuel quota. That's a great initiative, no question about that. So that's 1 minute for explain why the system is needed, right? So now, when people, before we talk about this solution, why it can fail, I want you to tell you a story, small story, right? I don't know whether you have watched it. If you didn't watch it, you must watch it, right? It's a really good movie. So what this movie is about, there was a one flight take off from New York to Charlotte, United States, as I remember. That flight experienced a bird strike just after its takeoff. So then pilot tried to land on the nearby airport and finally he decided, no, I can't land to the airport. So he put the flight into the Hudson River. Zero death, no major injuries, everyone survived. So after everything, they run an investigation about this incident and see what happened. So there they conclude pilot was wrong and he took the wrong decision. He had enough space to land on a nearby airport, but he made the wrong decision and put the flight into the river. But finally, pilot come up with a real brilliant idea. Here's what. So how they conclude the pilot was wrong, they run through the multiple simulators, they talk to expert pilots and simulate the incident. So everyone proved that there was enough space, flight could land to the nearby airport. But they missed one important parameter in this formula. That is, now when they simulate it, they know what happened, right? So when they take off the flight, they know in another minute there will be a bird strike. So now I need to go to the LaGuardia or another nearby airport. So that decision is already made. They know it. They're ready for it. But the pilot, very first time experiencing this, he has no idea. He didn't know that the bird strike will happen, right? So then after that happened, only he need to make the decision, what should I do? So what I try to tell you, it's really easy afterwards talk about the problem. If you have done this way, this won't happen. You should have done this. You should have done that. It's very easy to talk about that. But what hard is, very first time when you experience this problem, making that decision like that is the critical point. So therefore, whoever worked in this project, the architects, tech leads who worked on this project, my gratitude goes to them, because we can talk about this now because this happens. We know this will be the load and we know this is how it's going to fail. So we can design it better. But very first time, they didn't have that luxury. So therefore, this is not an effort to criticize them at all. There was two categories of posts regarding this on the social media. One side, people was criticizing, and other side, people were saying about the system. So I also made a post on my Facebook page saying this criteria are not met and system was failed. And most of people who talk about this system, they were asking who gave the requirement, who signed off the requirement, who ran the load test, who did the QA sign off, who did the UAT sign off, and so many things. It's okay, it's cool, right? But that is the book says how the system should work and how the system should design and develop. But I'm telling you guys, sometimes that is not in the real world. Sometimes I know personally by experience how this type of system develop and how the systems comes, right? Usually you get a phone call and say, hey Krish, we have this requirement, we need to develop a system as soon as possible. You're lucky if you get 1 week for this. Usually you get days. I tell one story. When you're expert on the field, it's really hard to avoid this type of things. At least in Sri Lanka, India, kind of Asian countries. Because when you're a software engineer or when you're a software architect, people think you can hack into the Facebook and delete the account or something like that. That's how people think about you. So people think you can do anything overnight. Sometimes you need to pull back. You need to take your step back and say, no, we're not going to do it. But sometimes there are cases you need to do it. Right? I have one story, and this happened in 2008 as I remember. It was a peak of the Sri Lankan war. We had 30 years of war, and that is a peak of the war, the very high security. I had to implement a system within 5 days. I got just 5 days to design and implement this entire system, right? And 3 of us are mainly involved there. And when the day they launched the system, we were under the table just to make sure everything is worked fine. I still remember the president's security and the armed forces was behind us because we was under the table and the other side of the table, president of the country. So, I mean, you could say, no, you shouldn't have done that. But given the circumstances, the requirement and when people expert your expertise, you have to contribute it. It's a good thing you do. It is not a bad thing. I completely understand that violate all the possible rules you know. So some people can argue you shouldn't have done that. But the reality is that's a challenge you're getting, right? And I'm pretty sure even this system, that is a challenge what this team got. So sometime, here's the thing, right? If you're a really good architect, if you're a really handful person, you should be able to take any challenge. You're a good doctor not because you are get every patient who you can assure that leave the hospital alive, right? But you will be a good doctor even if you know, if you're not sure about the patient, you should give your service to them. You should accept the patient and try to save him. That make you a good doctor. Understand that creates so many troubles, right? It creates a bad experience behind your name. People are going to talk about it. People are going to tell you kill him, but still you're going to take that patient because you're a good doctor. You have a confidence about it. So therefore, when you're in industry, you must do this type of shotgun surgery. Just by my word, you have to do this type of shotgun surgery. At least when you are a software architect in a country like Sri Lanka, India, those type of things. So now, therefore, don't ask where the requirement document, who signed off and who did the QA test. I guarantee you, I don't know about them who did this event. I don't think they have a test suite for this. I don't think they have a sign-off document for this. This is most probably, I believe this will be a free of charge effort. They try to contribute their support. I remember a few requests. I remember I involved some cases like that during the COVID situation. Overnight, we built certain queue management system, certain order booking system, certain appointment system for people who would really need it. Okay, so therefore, it is not. I don't see it is wrong they taking that challenge. So then, what I'm going to do in this video, we are going to see when you get a challenge like this. Assume that you got the same challenge and how you could have do different, what are the mistakes they have done and how you could have avoid that and how you can do a better job. That's the simple thing we are going to do. Right, let's jump into the real system and see how we can do this better and what are the options available. Again, this is not a criticism for the existing solution and to tell that they did wrong, right? But if you as a software engineer or a tech lead or an architect one day, if you get this type of challenge, what are the options you have and how you can do this better? That's the whole purpose of this discussion, right? So now this is the same system. So you can see here, this is the registration view. So if you come here, you have two options, registration and login. And if you go to the registration, you can enter your data and get registered, right? First thing is, who are the users? You need to concern that. I saw people saying you could have with the Facebook login, GitHub login, Gmail, Google logging with the Google or so many things. Yes, those options are available. But if you take the users of the system, most of them don't have a computer literacy. Yeah, they may have a Facebook account, they may have a TikTok, but just having a Facebook doesn't mean they have a computer literacy to go do all those things. And most of the majority of the people may fill this form using mobile phone, smartphone, right? So I give a plus for them, just not adding the Google authentication or a Facebook authentication for this one. They have done, so when you enter the data, when you enter the mobile number, they send you an OTP. And then when you enter the OTP, you can move forward. That is the first place this system start to get fail. Because you need to understand the millions of people suffering this fuel problem. They want fuel. We don't have a fuel for months now. So when media announce about this fuel pass, of course people are jump to register in there. Because they might be thinking if we register first, we get the first, right? That's nothing like that. But they might think like that. So therefore, you expect millions of traffic to this system, right? Millions of people, at least thousands of people at the same time trying to access this system. So when you send the OTP, right? OTP getting queued, right? So now you are saying, hey, this OTP expires in 5 minutes, but OTP comes 10 minutes later. That's a failure too. When you don't have OTP, you try again. So now these things getting queued. So I think sending an OTP in the first place is a bad idea. You should have avoided that. Getting an OTP as a sign-in mechanism, I accept it. It's a good, but adding an OTP first is a bad idea. And then the next thing is, if you see this system, you need to enter. Once you get the OTP, you need to verify the OTP. Then you need to give your detail, and in the next screen, you need to give your vehicle information. They expect your chassis number as well as your registration number, right? So that is that is the entire idea of the entire system. Once you give those things, they verify with the RMA, motor vehicle department, the chassis number against the vehicle number, and if it is valid, they give you the QR code. So now we discussed in our last videos as well, right? We are depending on an external API. Okay, that can be a database, that can be API. We depend on that API. So when you depend on some external system, you should be careful that cascading failure not crash yourself. Okay, that's very important fact. You are depending on someone else's system where you don't have any control, right? So you need to avoid crashing yourself. Okay, so now let's get one by one problems and how we can solve it. The first thing is the load. Of course, you need to go with the good scaling solution. I'm not going to name because I don't have information about infrastructure this deployed on. It can be auto scaling infrastructure. It can be, it may be not. Maybe this is using serverless. I don't know, right? And I didn't try to dig into that. But whatever mechanism you do, there are enough auto scaling features available right now out there. Right? First thing is you need to handle that load. The second is, okay, if you take this one, what the system does is it take the NIC and get the mobile number and send the OTP. Right? So now thousands of millions of people can do this. Right? So we can do something like this. We have multiple solutions. I'll tell you a few options. Right? One and each other has a different advantage and disadvantages. First thing we could do is we can take NIC number, mobile number, and vehicle number plate and the chassis number all together. Alright, that's one solution. So then, if you verify vehicle chassis number against the registration number, then you go to the OTP. Why I'm saying so? I saw so many posts saying, even that happened to me, it says your vehicle number and chassis number is mismatched. Right? So then if that invalid traffic, you can avoid sending OTP for them. You can buy some time for that, right? That's not ideal solution. I'll tell a different solution later, right? That's not ideal solution, but that way you can reduce the traffic little bit, right? Not much, but little bit. So now let's say you send the OTP. Now someone can say, okay, you are putting traffic on the external API, right? Anyway, even this way, you are putting the same traffic on the external API, right? So let's say that is not an option. Okay, let's say I understand that's not a perfect solution. Now I would say something like this. I capture all the information to the system, right? I get the NIC number, I get the mobile number, I get the vehicle registration number, and I get the chassis number and type of fuel you want, right? And your address or whatever. What is all the information, right? And I store in the database and I give a message saying, once your information verified, we will let you know. Right? So now there's a disconnected. So user go away. So we get the traffic we get a bunch of traffic, but we don't keep the traffic. We store the data on our database with the basic validation. If it is success, we say, hey, we'll let you know. Then eventually, like a solution we discussed in our last video, it can be event based, it can be a batch based, it can be whatever you want, right? And then you can, let's say your RME API is throttled, right? Based on the throttling limit, you can get the information verified one by one, and you send maybe OTP. OTP may be not reasonable here because when you get the millions of traffic, 6-digit number can repeat, right? So you can send a number, let's say OTP, to the mobile phone, and then you give a separate screen. So what that screen does is, you need to enter your NIC number and this whatever the identity number you are giving or passport number along with your OTP. Right? If these two match, now we have verified QR code generated record. Right? Because, I mean, you giving this QR code on a Sunday morning, it is on Sunday evening you get fuel, right? So now it's being like 2 days by now, but I don't think we will have fuel for the next 3-4 days. But you get enough time to process these data and give the feedback. Let's say some information wrong. So now we can say your profile, you cannot get the QR code because your chassis number is wrong, your this number is wrong, your vehicle number is wrong, you're not allowed, whatever. You can give the feedback, right? So that way you don't burn your system or you don't burden other side of the system or the external APIs because of this thing. So now again, we capture all the information, and then we just say, hey, come back later. Or like we can give an approximate time based on the volume we have, right? If you know we can process 100 per minute, and then okay, if you have 10,000, you know this much of time, right? We will inform you approximate time to complete is this. So now they know, right? They will go away. So now they will get the token into their SMS, and then you go to the next page. The other page, that page is not there, right? Enter your NIC and the OTP number, then you can go to your profile. That will work. And now you can say, okay, what if they don't have internet when they get the SMS? That's fine. Keep that token valid for like 24 hours or something like that, right? Or else you can give a menu, resend the token or get the status, right? You enter your mobile number and your NIC number, you can get the status. Remember, if you didn't watch the video, watch the last video, right? So we gave an endpoint where you can get the information. Now it will say still processing, right? Error. This is the problem. QR generated, something like that. So that way we can completely disconnect this traffic from you. The next thing is they have done good thing. So now let's see what I'm going to do is here. I am trying to use VPN. Okay. So I'm trying to connect to Singapore. Okay, let's see. I'm going to connect to VPN. So now, yeah, it's connect to Singapore, right? So let's see IP to location.com. Okay. So now you can see I'm getting an IP from Singapore, right? So if I try to browse the system is not working for me. Obvious, right? Because there is no way you get a fuel pass if you're not in Sri Lanka, right? Yeah, makes sense. The UI doesn't work, but if you're trying to send the API call directly, it's working, right? So they have blocked the traffic to website, but they didn't block the traffic to their APIs. That's bad, right? Because and anyone, yeah, of course you understand this is in the public internet, right? It's open to internationally. You can come from any country, but now the problem is you block from the site. But if you get to know the APIs, if the API get exposed, then anyone can use your API. You know the danger side of this? When you send this registration call, it doesn't get any authentication from you. You just need the mobile number. So some bot or some unauthorized person get into this, right? They can blast your servers with sending a request. So I'm not going to publish this video until they fix this, right? Until they block the API. I send few messages to people I think involved on this. So until they block this, I'm not going to publish the video. And those are the clear issues you can see. But there's a very critical issue because this completely come from the software engineers understanding about the programming languages. I always tell people there is a different creatures for software developers and software engineers, right? So don't be a software developer, be a software engineer, because you should know how exactly thing works. I posted in my Facebook page after this incident saying concurrency in practice. I asked every developer should read this book, doesn't matter which language you're using, because you need to understand how computer works, right? The race condition, we know the race hazard, right? What can happen in a computer system. So now, what happened to me when I'm trying to register, it says my vehicle number and my chassis number doesn't match, right? What? I tried again. Same thing, I tried again. But just believe me, when I keep trying, right, using a small script, when I keep trying, what happened? It got accepted. The reason for this, I cannot assure with 100% certainty, but I suspect they suffered a memory leak as well. Memory leak in the sense, the one thread vehicle number is mixed up with some other thread's chassis number. Also, I heard, cannot comment on this too, people got wrong QR code. When I register my vehicle with the ABC123 vehicle, I get the QR code for DEF 678 or something like that. That can happen when you have a memory leak. For example, if you use a Spring Boot application, if you get a global class level variable, because Spring Boot is a singleton. If you use an SJS application, it's a similar thing. When you have a singleton, because most of DI framework is a singleton, if you create a global variable in the class level, and then if you assign some value to that, every request come to that will share the same value. So that's a dangerous thing to do. So There are a few other minor issues as well, but I'm not going to go deep into that because it's like insulting them. So what I took is the major issues we could avoid and do a better system, right? So now we discussed load balancing. We cannot comment on that, but clearly we saw by changing the design aspect, way of the design solution, we can avoid this type of traffic failures or this type of catastrophic failures. And I give very plus for them. I'm not judging them, but I agree their authentication mechanism with the OTP, because that's okay, because majority people have a mobile phone and they don't have email address. That's I can agree, but what I don't agree is where they use it. Okay, so again, thank you very much for watching this video, and this is completely again I feel no one is good hurt, and it's completely harmless, and I didn't try to criticize anyone, but I wanted to take this as a use case to teach future engineers and future tech leads and architects, so they, when they face same situation, they will do something better. Then stay safe, take care.